Hello everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again, and we're now going to talk about Shameless US and do a review of the premiere episode of the 11th and final season. Now this will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode yet or you haven't caught up with the series, then I advise you to stop watching now, go away, catch up with the episode and come back and watch this review. So I think overall, in terms of the episode, it was pretty much typical Shameless fashion. We open up very easy, we get to catch up with all the characters, where they've been going since the 10th season, a brief recap of what happened in the last episode. Of course, we saw that Mickey and Ian got married. We had Lip and Tammy getting used to life now, living together with their baby. We had Debbie, of course, getting in major trouble following sleeping with 17-year-old Julia, the daughter of the woman that she was previously having an affair with. And we saw Carl kind of getting his life together now and recruiting to the police force. So that was really the quick overall events of the show going into this 11th season, and I think overall the show was done very well. I know a lot of people were concerned how it would do following the departure of Fiona in the 9th season, but I think Shameless has always been an ensemble show. It's never been dominated by one particular character, even though Frank is pretty much a fan favourite amongst most fans. I think it works well because we get to spend a lot of time with all of these characters, and catching up with them has become very much for crowd pleasing and a regular beat throughout. And I think the show knows this, particularly in its premiere episodes. It never opens up with a banger or a pretty heavy-handed premiere. It just eases its way into the storyline and lets these characters just find their footing first before they carry on into the meat of the story later on throughout the season. So it was pretty much, as I mentioned before, just regular Shameless really. Titled This Is Chicago, we caught up and we see that Lip and Tammy are getting used now, or trying to get used now, to domestic life together, and we get a bit of stress between them, particularly from Lip's point of view, because Tammy is dictating to him a lot, asking him where to go, what to do, what to get from the shops. And I think this is used to married life, and I think there was a good parallel between Lip and Tammy, along with also Ian and Mickey's marriage. And the dynamic here was that Ian was worried because he was the only breadwinner right now. He was worried, how are they going to pay the bills and live together? And he was very angry at Mickey because Mickey was spending money without consulting him. And yeah, this is for both characters, Lip and Ian. Welcome to married life. You're going to get this, you're going to get issues with your partners and difficulties and certain problems and dilemmas that you have to work out together. So this is sort of breaking new ground for both of these characters, and it'll be interesting to see how both of their married life develops throughout the whole season. We have, as I mentioned before, Carl joining the police force. So will this now be a case of Carl really getting his act together, getting his life together? Will he stick with the police force? We all know his fascinations with weapons. Previous seasons, of course, we saw him spend a spell in the military. So will he now become much more of a grounded character? Will we eventually see him settle down and be involved in a relationship and maybe start a family of his own, as we've seen with all the younger characters? So I think it's a good direction going ahead for Carl, and we'll see what mishaps he gets into. One person who had more of a mess was Debbie, because as we saw from the previous season, she got in trouble for sleeping with her 17-year-old, and now we see that she's having to wear a bracelet and making sure that she's in at a certain time, and she's trying to find ways of getting her life back together. We see that she's started up her own business, and things started off very well, but she suddenly finds out that she's on the sex offender list, so she struggles to resound that, and we'll see over the season how she really gets to cope with that in the long run. So very comical mishaps for Debbie. I don't know how long this relationship with her girlfriend will last, whether it will be a meaningful relationship. They might actually stick with that because it's the last season, so I'm pretty sure they want to see Debbie end up very happy. Frank, as usual, was being Frank. He was being followed by a student, following around the city as it was adjusting to the COVID climate, and I was very surprised by that. I was wondering throughout this last season, would they address the COVID issues, because as we all know, despite it being a comedy drama, Shameless often than not has a social commentary about current events. So I think overall they handled the COVID scenario very well. They made references to it previously. Of course, we saw all the characters wearing masks in the appropriate situations. Kevin and Fiona, of course, were feeling the brunt of it because they had to close down their pub, so they had to moonlight the services in many ways, and we saw them selling this kind of cannabis drug. We saw students taking it, and a couple was collapsing, and Frank was trying to work together with young student girls to try to get a hold of it some more. So yeah, I think they handled it okay. So overall, really, it was pretty much, as I said, of a brisk, light-hearted episode, as what we would come to expect from Shameless. We ended on a very upbeat moment where we see the family coming into Lip's house, and we see Lip looking around, and really, I think now adjusting to his family life and beginning to find some sort of foundation and footing. You know, Lip has been one of the characters I've sympathised the least with over the show, because unlike the others, he had a clear path to building a very good, successful career, and he threw it away, as we've seen over the last couple of seasons. So maybe this will be the final season where he gets his act together as well. So nothing too substantial, nothing too heavy-handed, but this is the flavour of the show. This is how it always does when it starts off its season. So I'm pretty sure we would get something more substantial as we go up throughout the season. It will be interesting to see how they end it, because for the most part, Shameless has been a light-hearted comedy. You know, we list it as a comedy drama. I would hear it as more of a comedy with certain dramatic elements. So I think overall the most serious season was probably season 4, maybe season 3 as well. And I think certainly over the last 3 or 4 seasons, it's rested on its laurels and being a much more of a comedy show, which is nothing wrong with that, because I think you're invested in these characters and you just want to see where they will end up. So I imagine we'll probably get a happy ending. I don't think we'll get any character death. If it may probably be Frank, but I just don't think it's in the show's nature to end on such a downbeat, somber note. I think we will probably, as the trailer for this season, we'll see them getting in very crazy mishaps and misdemeanors, and I think overall we will get to see them overall, I think, have a happy ending in the long run. And I'm pretty sure Fiona will make some appearance in the series finale. I think you have to do that. Fiona was such a iconic character for the show, particularly in the first 4 or 5 seasons, so I think it would be criminal to not have Fiona make an appearance at all. So I'm pretty sure we'll get that, and they're probably keeping that under wraps, which I think is the right way to go. So those are my thoughts on the premiere episode of the 11th season of Shameless. This is Chicago. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this is the right time for Shameless to end, or do you think it should have ended a couple of seasons ago? Do you think the story has kind of been stretched out a moment? Who are your most favourite characters? Do you think that we will see overall a happy ending for all, or do you think there may be a character death, or we may get a serious storyline halfway through the season before we hurtle on towards the final conclusion? So those are my thoughts for now. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Stay at safe distances. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.